Okay, it's day 84, and this is part 2. And this is a shout out to Tracy Beanz. I met her for the first time about a couple of weeks ago. We talked over a couple of days, and it was good I heard her talk as well. So got to know her a little, and she did a great interview with Papadopoulos and Mangiante, as it were. But she's got this video out now about Huber, kind of in defense of Huber. And I don't know if she knows this or not, but Huber had nothing to do with the indictment of Mark Lambert. She gets 107,000 views on this video using Mark Lambert's indictment. The person who I've said, over a year and a half now, is the key to the Uranium One deal. Now, she quotes Victoria Tenzing, who is Joe Genova's wife, saying, hey, you never called William Campbell, who I also identified as the one of the K Street bagmen that the Fox folks were pushing forward. And one of the things Victoria Tenzing says in this article is Huber never called the Uranium One key whistleblower. And now she's mentioning, she says, well, she's taking the Lambert indictment that came from last December and saying that Huber's somehow responsible for that. I don't know if she knows how many videos I did on Mark Lambert, probably about 40 or 50. Way more than just Mark Lambert. First of all, we interviewed him, both task force and I interviewed him before he was indicted. We interviewed his daughters, who are both Farsi speaking, both married to Iranian guys. When we went there to the Dragon Distillery, we interviewed his wife, the Krupnik, who just happened to be related to the key buyer at U.S. Enrichment, Pavel Krupnik, who just happened to be related to Roman Krupnik, the key person that was buying these crushers for Uranium One, who just happened to be related to the key uranium fields that were in Kazakhstan, and also in their son, or their relative, maybe nephew, that was also in Namibia, buying African uranium. So we did a lot of work and logistics. The database she's talking about is the NRC database, which is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission database. Again, we've drilled down on that and actually produced the actual bills of lading from Mark Lambert and Transport Logistics to the various companies, to Areva, to Urenco, to the different suppliers. So we've done a lot of the documentation and drill down, and by going out there and actually putting the pressure on and showing the Mikarin indictment and showing the actual bills of lading, I believe is what caused the indictment of Mark Lambert. As you recall, we worked that story for about 2 months before Mark Lambert was indicted. I remember exactly where I was with task force when I heard he was indicted. I felt very responsible for the indictment. I remember feeling very guilty at the time. But Huber had absolutely nothing to do with this. And I can't believe that this video has 107,000 views. It has absolutely nothing. Huber has absolutely nothing to do with this indictment. This indictment was on the shelf for 5 years. It was brought off the shelf by Rod Rosenstein. They had it from the time of the Mikarin indictment, and Mark Lambert was the cooperating undercover employee. There was a placeholder indictment. Mark Lambert was there the next day. I called him at Dragon Distillery. He's never felt in any kind of jeopardy whatsoever. They are just doing a show to say that they're doing something. They keep going back and forth. The case will eventually be dropped. You can tell that the DOJ is not moving forward at all. It's all the Maryland U.S. attorneys in the Maryland district, has nothing whatsoever to do with Huber in Utah. So I just have to set the record straight that Huber did nothing, absolutely nothing with Mark Lambert. If you want to pick out the person who did the real digging in the Lambert case, it's me and task force. We're the only people who went up there and actually filmed where he was actually doing all this stuff. We filmed the offices of 10X. We filmed the offices of U.S. Enrichment over by Lockheed. We filmed the offices of Transport Logistics, which became TLI, and connected all the dots to the whole supply chain for the uranium. So to somehow associate Huber with Mark associate Huber with Mark Lambert and the Mark Lambert indictment is just plain wrong. This is a little bit frustrating because she's got 107,000 views, and there's all these Huber people that are using this and kind of using this as their life raft to convince themselves that Huber's doing anything. And I just hate to see, first of all, maybe she's not aware of all the work I did and all the videos that I put out about Mark Lambert. I'm sure that there's people on our channel that said, oh my God, you thought it was the Mark Lambert channel for a while with Uranium One. I'm glad that she agrees now that this is the key person in the case. But again, that is 14 months old story, right? We were there way before the indictment. We were all over him, interviewing him, talking about his business, talking about the NRC paperwork. That's what they're talking about. We've talked about Urenco, talked about Areva, we talked about 10X, we talked about Mikrin, we talked about Worthington Cylinder, we talked about the whole supply chain going back to Piketon, Ohio, Paducah, Kentucky, mainly Piketon, Ohio. And it pains me to see a video get 107,000 views that is just barely scratching the surface, and it's wrong. So Tracy, love you to death, but you're just plain wrong, and you're just at the start of something that we did a tremendously more research on 14 months ago. You're just plain wrong on this one, Tracy.